could the United States be implicated in war crimes due to its support for Israel? This is the provocative question we're exploring today. The conflict between Israel and Palestine has been a contentious issue for decades. However, recent developments have added a new twist. The International Court of Justice, or ICJ, has issued an interim ruling against Israel over alleged genocidal acts in Gaza. This ruling has stirred the pot, especially considering the U.S.'s long-standing support for Israel. So, let's delve into this complex issue, starting from the ICJ's ruling. On a fateful day, the International Court of Justice made an interim ruling against Israel. South Africa, a country with its own history of apartheid, had brought forward a case arguing that Israel was committing acts of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. The court, in this interim order, recognized South Africa's legal standing and directed Israel to take measures to prevent acts that could be seen as genocidal. However, the court did not demand Israel to halt its attacks. Instead, it urged Israel to abide by the Genocide Convention, which includes preventing and punishing incitement to genocide and providing humanitarian aid. This ruling didn't mark the end of the case, but rather it was an interlude in what could be a prolonged legal battle that may span over years. The international community is on the edge of their seats, awaiting Israel's response. The question on everyone's mind: will Israel comply? Legal experts believe outright dismissal of the court's orders could be challenging for Israel. This ruling could significantly amplify the international pressure on the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, pushing him towards curbing the ongoing conflict. South Africa's case, backed by evidence like public statements and video recordings, claimed that Israel's actions violated the Genocide Convention. Israel, in its defense, dismissed these accusations of genocide and presented evidence of their efforts to limit harm to civilians. This ruling could potentially have direct repercussions on the assault launched by Israel in response to a Hamas-led attack back in October 2023. It might also influence international calls for a ceasefire and exert pressure on the U.S. and President Biden to either support a ceasefire or suspend military aid to Israel. This ruling has set the stage for a potential shift in international relations. But what does this mean for the U.S.? The United States, Israel's biggest ally, finds itself in a precarious position. Long-standing ties between the two nations have been forged through shared interests and mutual support. A significant part of this relationship is the military aid that the U.S. provides to Israel, which has been instrumental in the ongoing conflict. Yet, with the International Court of Justice's interim ruling on the alleged genocide in Gaza, the U.S.'s support for Israel could have far-reaching implications. The ruling has the potential to expose Washington to international condemnation, and even possible complicity in war crimes. This has led to increasing pressure on President Biden to reconsider the U.S.'s policy towards Israel. The U.S.'s political backing for Israel has been unwavering, with Washington frequently using its veto power in the United Nations Security Council to shield Tel Aviv from international scrutiny. However, the ICJ's ruling and the mounting global outcry against the situation in Gaza have intensified the spotlight on the U.S.'s stance. The predicament for the U.S. is further complicated by the fact that the ICJ's rulings are binding, as emphasized by the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. This means that non-compliance or disregard for the court's ruling could lead to serious repercussions on the international stage. The U.S. now finds itself in a position where it must balance its long-standing alliance with Israel against its own standing in the international community. This delicate balancing act could have significant implications not only for the U.S.-Israel relationship, but also for the broader geopolitical landscape. As the world watches, the U.S. must make a crucial decision that could redefine its global standing. The ICJ ruling could have far-reaching effects, not just for Israel and the U.S., but for the international community as a whole. Indeed, the implications of this ruling are significant. It could lead to increased international pressure for a ceasefire in the ongoing conflict. Countries around the globe, witnessing the unfolding events, may feel compelled to take a stance, urging for an end to the violence. This could lead to a greater push for peace and stability in the region. The ICJ ruling could also lead to potential changes in U.S. policy. The United States has long been a staunch ally of Israel. However, with this ruling, there may be pressure on the Biden administration to reconsider its position. The U.S. may find itself in a precarious position, potentially implicated in supporting actions deemed as genocidal. This could lead to a re-evaluation of their stance and perhaps a shift towards a more balanced approach. One of the most profound implications of this ruling is the very possibility of accountability for war crimes. This case, brought forward by South Africa, a country with its own history of apartheid, is symbolic in many ways. It brings to the fore the very essence of international law, the pursuit of justice. It underscores the fact that all nations, regardless of their power or influence, are subject to the principles of international law. This case could indeed mark a shift in international relations. It highlights the role of the International Criminal Court in upholding justice and the principles of human rights. It serves as a reminder that the world is watching, and that accountability is not a mere concept, but a principle that can and should be enforced. As we navigate this new landscape, one thing is clear: no nation, no matter how powerful, is above international law. We've explored the ICJ ruling, its implications, and the potential impact on the U.S. But this story is far from over. The International Court of Justice's interim ruling against Israel over the Gaza genocide case could potentially implicate the United States in war crimes. This could lead to a shift in international relations and potentially pressure allies to push for a ceasefire. As we continue to follow this evolving story, we are reminded that the pursuit of justice is a global endeavor, and the world is watching.